Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. We're going to talk on the latest, of course, with the Raiders in the draft, Christian Ellis, all that's gone on with the Raiders. But before we do, I want to read an email and then we're going to bring an expert on to answer it. It says, Hondo, please explain to me how the Pro Football Hall of Fame voting works and what it's going to take for Jim Plunkett to finally be inducted. I am really hoping that he gets the honor while he's still with us. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on Jim, if you know him personally. Jim Plunkett was my first athlete here when I was a kid. I have been a Raider fan since 1980. I was 10 years old at the time. One more thing, I want you to know that I really appreciate your YouTube videos. Thank you so much. Tim Baker from Fort Smith, Arkansas. Now, to talk about this subject, we bring on a man that in the world of pro football absolutely needs no introduction. He would tell you he was the perfecter of the mock draft. I would tell you he was the inventor of the mock draft. We argue about that, but let me tell you this. He is a dear friend. He is a mentor. He is the finest sports journalist. He is the best pro football journalist that's ever walked this planet. And what's really cool for me is that when you grow up and you have a hero and that you meet that hero, very rarely are they as good as what you had thought. He's a better man than I even thought he was. And I'm in the business because of him. And I love him dearly. And he means the world to me. You know him as, again, he is a Hall of Fame voter, the greatest football sports writer of all time, the great Rick Gosselin. Rick, thanks for joining me, my friend.
I'm not worthy of that introduction.
Well, you know it's sincere. That's how I think about you. I
Oh,
wouldn't be doing this without you. I
for sure.
literally owe any success I have ever had in this business to you. I owe everything to you, and I'm grateful for you.
I appreciate your friendship, Hondo.
So you just heard me read the letter from Tim Baker in Fort Smith, Arkansas. You're on the Hall of Fame committee. You're on the senior committee. I'm not going to ask you because, first of all, your integrity wouldn't do it. But the case for Plunkett, how does that happen? Can you explain to fans how that works, please?
Okay. I've been on the senior committee for 21 years. And when they first put me on in 2004, I figured I better know what I'm talking about. So I went through and put together a list of over 100 players that I thought were worthy of Hall of Fame consideration. There are 8 NFL MVPs, 2 Defensive Players of the Year, 2 players off the 50th anniversary team, a player in the 100th anniversary team. There are players with 7, 8, and 9 Pro Bowls. Now, every franchise, 32 franchises, every franchise feels it has 3 to 5 players that have been passed over by the Hall of Fame process in this pool. For instance, Kansas City, Jim Tyre, Otis Taylor, Fred Arbanis, Ed Buddy, Albert Lewis, Dallas, Harvey Martin, Everson Walls, Ralph Neely, Cornell Green. The Raiders, Lester Hayes, Jim Plunkett, Jack Tatum, Art Powell. They all feel that these guys have been passed over in the process. Now, we bring out, 2 senior candidates a year off this list of 100. And every year, more players go in. Now, in the 53 years we've done this, we've nominated 83 players. We have never nominated a Colt, never nominated a Charger, never nominated a Patriot. Since 2006, we've nominated 5 Raiders. Madden, Guy, Stabler, and Branch have all been inducted, and Art Paul, of course, 2 years ago was passed over. Now, therein lies the issue. Everybody looks at the one guy they wanted. They look at Jim Plunkett. Kansas City may look at Otis Taylor. The 49ers may look at Billy Wilson, who had 3 receiving titles. I've got to look at the 100 players. I got to look at this master list and figure out who are the most deserving. A lot of the guys that I had in the initial list, Jerry Kramer, Johnny Robinson, Mick Tangloff, have been enshrined, but I've still got 100 names. Jim Plunkett is one of those 100 names, and we got to figure out where does he fit. Now, and I've told the Dallas people, I've told the Chiefs people, the senior committee is not a clearinghouse for any one team. And here we've got 5 Raiders, since 2006. Again, no Colts, no Chargers, no Patriots in 52 years. And you want to kind of spread it around. Now, you look at the other quarterbacks that Plunkett has won. Jim's got the 2 championships. But Ken Anderson, Roman Gabriel, John Brody, Joe Theismann, Charlie Connolly, and Earl Morrall are all in the senior pool and all are past NFL MVPs. Now, is Plunkett better than a player and a quarterback who was the best player in a single season? Plunkett won the 2 Super Bowls with great teams. Well, we've got Cecil Isabel was an all-decade quarterback. He can't get in. Charlie Connolly won a championship, was an MVP. He can't even get to the table to be discussed. Plunkett is one of many. And like I said, you're not a clearinghouse for any one team. And the Raider fan base was quite loud about Ray Guy and Ken Stabler and Cliff Branch, and we've inducted all 3. Now, how soon do we come back with yet another Raider? Do we have another Raider, Jim Plunkett, or Jack Tatum, or Lester Hayes? Who's the best Raider of those 4? A lot of people would say, Todd Christensen. But Lester Hayes was an all-decade performer. Todd Christensen led the league in back-to-back receiving seasons. The Raiders have 4 or 5 really great candidates. Is Plunkett the best candidate? So you got to decide, is he the best candidate of his team? And then once you figure out, is he the best candidate of the Raiders, is he one of the 2 best candidates off this list of 100? And therein lies the problem. It's a numbers problem. Once upon a time, we nominated 3 seniors, and most of them would get in. But then for a long time, we had a stretch of 1 senior, then we had a stretch of 2 seniors. It's just a major numbers problem, and Jim Plunkett's been caught up in it.
Quick questions, and we'll get you out of here. But I'm fascinated by something. To me, the Hall of Fame is if you have to convince yourself to put somebody in, they probably don't belong. It should be an elite place.
Right.
But I love the senior committee because there are some people that never saw those people. And so they don't have the ability to say yes. Like, for example, anyone that lived knows Michael Jordan belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Anyone that lives knows Tom Brady belongs there. I mean, you don't have to be a donkey brain at midnight in an old Tim Barn to figure that out.
Right.
But Earl Morrall, now, if I hadn't had some connection there, I wouldn't have known. But that's why I love the senior committee. Would you agree with that philosophy on my part, or am I oversimplifying it?
Yeah, so many players have slipped through the cracks. 75% of every player in Canton made all decade. I mean, think about that. Only 25% of the people in Canton, players in Canton, didn't make all decade. Jim Plunkett did not make all decade. 68% of all the players in Canada won championships. So there's only 32% of the players did not win championships. It's like, if you win championship, that helps. If you're all decade, you're on roller skates into the Hall of Fame. And you start looking at the box, checking the boxes. Jim played 15 seasons, didn't go to a Pro Bowl. And you got some quarterbacks went to 4 and 5 Pro Bowls in the senior committee. It just, again, every team's got their 1 or 2 guys they think belongs. And that's 32 teams. That's 60 or 44 players each year. And we only get 2 spots. And like I said, we put a lot of Raiders through in the last 18 years. And do we keep putting them through and keep avoiding Colts, Chargers, and Patriots? It's going to be tough. You try to spread it around and get worthy candidates from all the franchises. Like I said, it's not a clearinghouse for any one franchise.
All right. Last question, and I apologize. I should have told you up front that I was going to ask you this, but I forgot.
Sure.
And so if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. But I'm going to call you later and tell you who this GM was. A very respected GM. I know that you just think highly of him. Told me something recently about the NFL, and he said at no time in the NFL's history, he's been around a long time, has there been worse drafting teams than there are now. And he said, I look at some of these picks, they're reaching for need rather than best player available.
Right.
I mean, he told me, he goes, there's no way Brock Bowers should have dropped to 13. Everybody knew he was a dude. Everybody knew he was that guy. But so many bad picks. And he told me that in all of his history, never seen it so bad as it is right now, and told me quarterback's the most important position.
Right.
This is a terrible class. but he said it may be the deepest draft. And he said there are going to be multiple starters picked in the 5th round because of so many bad drafting teams. I would just love your analysis of that.
Yeah, I think I would agree. When I was working the drafts and grading the drafts, I started every team with a C. You can count the great drafts in history on probably two hands. And a lot of people grade drafts and they grade everybody starts with an A and you lose your A. My feeling is if you have you're supposed to get good players. So that's a C. If you did better, you get a B. And if you I usually gave 1 or 2 A's for the best. But the overwhelming number of drafts are average. And the guys that the players or the teams that hit late, I always thought Ron Wolf was the greatest second-day drafter in history. He drafted starters and Pro Bowlers and Hall of Famers in rounds 4 through 7. And that's, anybody can draft well in the first 3 rounds. The great drafts are built on the old second day, 4 through 7. And I think a lot of it is the league has gone younger across the board. And I think the scouting has gotten younger. And I think the older scouts knew the buildings, knew that they would talk to the trainers, the equipment guys, the coaches. They had connections that built up over the years. The new scouts, the younger scouts, don't have those same connections. And a lot of times they don't get the insight that the older scouts got, based on a 20 and 30-year relationship with a scout that had at a particular school. They're getting, I think coaches, college coaches fool a lot of teams. They talk about players. They don't give them the negative stuff. And unfortunately, you find out the negative stuff after you draft. And I think the fact that the scouting has gotten so much younger, I think, has impacted the drafting.
I was told by a GM that was one that Saban's leaving hurt the NFL. And I said, why? And he said, because Nick would look his players in the eye and tell them, I will not lie to a scout about you because it hurts the next guy coming along who works his blank off. And he goes, I always love sitting down with Nick because Nick would tell me the truth. Don't pick him till the 3rd round. I wouldn't take this kid. This kid you're going to get in the 2nd round. He's a steal. You should take him in the 1st. He goes, and whatever Nick said, we took as gold because he never lied to us. People, they don't understand that, do they?
No, and I don't think Nick would say that in front of a room of 50 scouts. I think he would tell specific scouts that he had relationships with that, look, don't touch the guy. All schools want to get their players drafted. It helps in recruiting. I think what you're going to see in the next couple of years is a lot of North Carolina players drafted because of Belichick. He's going to put in a pro-style system, and he'll be honest with the NFL people that come through. This guy can play. This guy, he knows what an NFL player looks like based on his career in the NFL. And I do think you're going to see a lot of North Carolina players drafted because they will trust what Belichick has to say about them.
Do you miss? I mean, not all, but most of the general managers, including Al Davis, would call you. They would get your insight. I'm just curious. Do you miss that part, or are you glad it's over?
No, I had a great run. I did it for 20 years, and I used to tell people I had more fun in March and April than I did in September and October. Building the draft boards. That's where the championships are built and won. And the last years of my draft, I had basically a draft board with 600 names. And I knew all the players. And if a team took a guy in the 5th round, I knew why they took him in the 5th round. And I knew why he was in the 5th round. Back then I knew the entire draft. It's not as fun now because I don't know. I don't research it. I don't talk to all the NFL people. I was talking to all 32 teams. I had a network of 120 people, scouts, assistant GMs, personnel directors, head coaches, assistant coaches. I talked to a lot of people, and that's why my stuff was so credible. I miss the research of drafts, but at this point in my life, I'm happily retired.
All right. Is Michigan State going to win the national title in hockey, basketball, or both?
I think they'll win it in one. And it's a tough call. Yeah. I don't want to bet against Izzo, but I've as you know, I've seen a lot of the Michigan State hockey, and I can watch the double overtime game the other night. I was up there twice in February for a couple of weekend series. That's a good hockey team. That's a good basketball team. As a tandem, I'd put my money on Michigan State over any other school going right now.
I agree. All right, I want to end with this. I
Sure.
was told by a journalist once, why do you say that stuff about Rick? It lessens your credibility. And I want to say this, I totally disagree. Being a sports journalist has been a blessing in my life, and you paved a way. And I just want you to know, I say it every time because I feel it and I believe it. And I tell you this privately, you changed my life. And I am one of those guys that became a friend with his hero, and you are a
Yeah.
better friend than a hero. And I just personally, I'm never going to be ashamed to sing your praises and what you mean to me personally and professionally. And I just want to thank you for literally
I
being
appreciate
the
that.
epitome of integrity and character. You're the highest person of integrity and character I've ever met in my life, including, I mean, and up there with my dad, the two of you. And I just revere you and I honor you publicly. And I thank you for setting the bar so
Yeah.
high. And I'm just one day I hope somebody I can reach you. I'm not there, I'm not close, but I just want to thank you publicly for all you mean to me personally.
Yeah, you'll get there, and I really appreciate the friendship over the years we've developed. That's it's all our business all about relationships. It was relationships with coaches, with players, with fellow media, with that's it's a people business, and I prided myself on having good relationships, and I put yours up very near the top.
Well, every time I go to the owners meeting, I'll be there next week. Someone will always say, "How's Rick?" And I always tell them, and I'm going to tell them this year, we got two Spartan teams that could win the national championship. Rick's doing well, so I'll make sure I tell everybody hi for you at the owners meeting.
Rick is doing great. Rick is doing great. I appreciate it,
All
Hondo.
right. Thank you, my friend. There you go, everybody. The greatest professional football journalist to literally ever live. He is the gold standard. He would be the Vince Lombardi of what I do, and a phenomenal man, an absolutely great journalist. Everything, everything that man does, he stands for what's right. I cannot tell you how many relationships I have in the NFL because of Rick, where he has called GMs, said to owners, "Listen, this is my guy. You can trust him." And I remember being young in the business and him saying, "Listen, I trust you. I know you. They don't. So just remember that they're accepting you because of me." And I'm so happy that he is a person in my life that literally means the world to me. Great stuff there on so many different subjects. We'll be talking about that for a long time. What an absolute treat to get that guy on our show. Man, super grateful. All right. Boy, I'll tell you what, you're not going to get a better answer to your email than that. Have somebody on the committee. So let's get going. Let's read some more. Uncle Hondo, have not heard much about Dylan Labe this offseason. Is he persona non grata under the new administration? What are your thoughts uh, on Nate Carter, the Michigan State running back? Do you think he would fit well with a Raider team? Thanks, Doug C. from Alabama. First of all, no, what do you mean he's persona non grata? Not even close. He had a rough rookie year. Now, you all know I like him. My mother loves him because she's from Providence, Rhode Island. So anyone up in New England, man, they're all tight. My mom now is a diehard Raider fan. I want everyone to know that. She genuinely really is. And which shocked me because she married my father, moved to Michigan, and everyone else in her family, for most of them at least, or in her sphere of influence, were Lions fans. And she's been a diehard Patriot fan till I moved out to the desert to cover the Raiders. And she didn't become a Patriot fan. Well, she loved Matt Millen. So she was kind of a Patriot fan because of our friendship. But once they selected Dylan Labe, it was over. No, he's not persona non grata at all. He is a guy that he had a rough rookie year, but he fought hard. He's going to have to show it, and I think it'll actually benefit him, a change in scenery, and he's going to have to earn it. As far as Nate Carter, I really like Nate Carter. I don't think he's the best back in this draft, but I think he's a very good draft who can, I mean, very good player that can absolutely be a high impact. He's one of the fastest rising guys. He's not in the first round, but he's one of the fastest rising guys and doing a great job. I like Nate Carter a lot. Next, Hondo, I've been a Raiders fan since I can remember. I enjoy your podcast, and I'll be honest, I just started listening. Oh, I lost it this past season, but haven't missed an episode since. I know he's gone now, but do you think he would make that we would have made the playoffs with Derek Carter in 2023? I don't. I do. I enjoy your thoughts of the Raiders. Uh, uh, I enjoy your thoughts on the insight on the Raiders. Why? No, that's from Jack Rivers in Las Vegas. Okay. Do I think the Raiders would have made the playoffs in 2023? I don't. And I don't for a couple of reasons. I think the Raiders had some problems in 2023 that were bigger than quarterback. So I don't think they would have made the playoffs in 2023. Maybe with Tom Brady because of his relationship with the coaching staff and because of his relationship with Mark Davis. I think I think they would have been a playoff team with Brady, but they wouldn't have with Patrick Mahomes. Just don't think that at all. So no, I don't think that at all. Hi, Uncle Hondo, Terry B from Andalusia. My question is the NFL rule changes, overtime and regular season. I've always hated NFL overtime rules. He thinks they're unfair and always much preferred college. I love what you do. John Shop said on Saturday's podcast, similar to college, move the ball back to the 40, maybe even midfield are better to do overtime rules. I'd be happy with that. Would avoid the likely the likes of Buffalo being robbed of a coin toss by the hated Chiefs on the basis of avoiding injuries, more wear and tear on the player, but trying to get a result in the regular season. What do you think of that? Yeah, I agree with what John said. I think put the ball at the 40-yard line and give each team the ball. The only thing I would do is a mandatory if you score a touchdown, you got to go for two. That's the only thing I would do differently. But yes, I agree with that. Next, hey Hondo, uh, I really appreciate your daily podcast. I know you have previously stated that rookie mistakes are expected for rookie players as well as coaches. Do you extend the same grace for first year general managers? John Spytek seems to be doing a good job navigating through the free agency and seems to know what he's doing. Do you expect any first year mistakes from John Spytek? Has he made any mistakes thus far? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Thank you for all that you do. Best, Brandon T. Absolutely. Now, there'll be some mistakes I don't expect him to make because he has Brady and Carroll and he listens to both. But yes, there will be rookie mistakes by John Spytek. I think John Spytek is going to be a long term. I'll be stunned. I'll be stunned if 10 years from today, John Spytek isn't the general manager. I'll be stunned. I think he's a long-term answer. He's going to grow into the job, but I think the world of Spytek. Always have for 20 years when he was the whiz kid. And I think he's going to do a tremendous job. Next email comes to us. Hello, Hondo. This is Ben C. from Syracuse, New York. Thanks for all the Raider coverage. You are absolutely the best insider. Well, thank you very much. You have mentioned a few times in regards to free agent losses that there is a feeling around the league that there are issues with the Raiders' strength and conditioning program and injuries such as Josh and Nate. Could you expand on that comment or if the Raiders feel the same? Thanks, Semper Fi. Got a good Marine right there. Now, I'm going to say a couple things. The belief around the NFL is yes, not all, but a lot of people think the Raiders have strength and conditioning issues. Okay. I would tell you that they think that that is the reason there are so many injuries. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Now, my wife is a high end nurse who specializes in, well, she's a specialist nurse, and she certainly doesn't know the inner workings of the Raiders, but she has even said to me before, with the amount of certain kinds of injuries, what's their strength and conditioning like? I know there are some in the building that absolutely share those concerns. I'm not speaking for the um, building holistically, and the team has not made a public statement, but I'd keep your eye on that. The next one comes to us from Katie Wells. Katie said, Hondo, I heard you on national radio the other day talking about Christian Ellis, the linebackers that the Raiders signed to an offer. Everyone else said they did not think that the Raiders, that the Patriots would sign the deal. You were the only one, and clearly they did today. Can you talk about how you knew this? Yet again, more great insider information from Katie. Katie, just like Rick said, talking to people, um, the Patriots had a lot of room, and he was a really, really good player that they didn't want to lose. And so when you're able to go sign him or match an offer, then you just make sure you don't overpay. And that's kind of how I was told. We didn't want to overpay, but we wanted to be fair. So hey, we'll let you go, make a deal. We're going to match it. And the expectation was all along that they would be matching the deal. I got somebody here I want to bring on today. Dexter, come here, please. Dexter's here. Dexter wants to say hi to everybody. So, you're wearing a hoodie that these people are going to like, son. Show them your hoodie. Show them your hoodie. Show them your Raider hoodie. Is that your Raiders hoodie? Can you say hi to everybody? Can you wave at them? All right. Tell them, say, God bless you all. All right. That's my little buddy. Bye. That's my little buddy Dexter helping me today. I hope that you all enjoyed this. Great Monday to you. I'll be heading the end of the week to the owners' meetings. Got a lot coming. Got some really good stuff for you guys that I know you're going to really enjoy. So thank you for joining us. For me and Dexter and all your team at, of course, the Las Vegas Raiders on SI. Thanks, everybody. God bless you. Have a great day.